Okay, welcome back to the Get the Picture podcast. Today we have a distinguished guest, Don Campbell, joining us from HID. So I'm going to give a quick intro to him. Don is a vice president of product at HID Global. He was a captain in the United States Marine Corps. After getting out of the service, he founded multiple companies and had a successful exit after EA Sports acquired one of his online gaming companies. He's been a VP of sales and product at a collection of security companies, including Alert Enterprise and HID Global. He sits inside the identity and access management business area at HID, and he's a podcast extraordinaire. So hasn't just been on my podcast; he's been on others. Don, welcome to the show. What did I miss? Did I miss anything?
You missed that you're supposed to set the bar low for me, not high like that. That's the main thing.
Well, glad to be here. Yeah, it's good to have you. I'm affectionately calling this episode the Don Cast. So Great. It's my podcast. I can do whatever I want. Don't make fun of me, but the Don Cast. So no, it's really good to have you. I know, I think we met a couple years ago at the Origin conference, and you've always been somebody that I have a lot of respect for, and you have a lot of industry experience. So I'm excited to get into it with you today.
Oh, great. Thanks for inviting me.
Absolutely. So what I like to do before we get into the questions, I like to do a quick game of overrated, underrated. Okay. And it's just a game to kind of, get to know you a little bit, but basically I'm going to say a word or a phrase and you have to tell me if it's overrated or underrated. Okay.
All right.
Got it. So first one, the Olympics.
Winter Olympics, overrated.
Overrated. Okay. You're more of a Summer Olympics guy?
Yeah. There's only so much bobsled you can watch.
That's fair. That U.S. men's hockey game, though, was pretty awesome. I don't know if you saw that.
Yeah. It has its highlights, but, around my house, there's a little too much skating on, and it was good encouragement to, go find something else to do. So
okay. All right. March Madness.
It's impossible to be overrated. It's really the only reason we're here is to get into March every year. So
yep. I'm a huge March Madness fan. I remember in school, the the Apple iTouch had just come out. And so we were we all had the game under the desk, watching the March Madness games as they happen. So love me some March Madness. Yeah. Okay. Here's a loaded one. Artificial intelligence.
If it's possible to be both, it's both. It's absolutely overrated in some of the applications that I've seen it in, especially calling it intelligence. But it's incredible at some things. And we've been using deep learning and some of the other machine learning for pattern recognition and things like that. But we're also now starting to use it for product design and for looking through how we improve our processes internally. So used in the right ways, it's underrated actually right now. Most of the hype I hear from marketing and in product releases is really overrated from what I've seen.
Yeah, you can kind of see the hype cycles go in waves. Like right now, I feel like there's a big Claude hype cycle where the Claude product team has gone on these different podcasts and but at the same time, there's really cool stuff that they're doing. Where people are coding in ways that weren't possible before, just through prompt engineering, and it's exciting.
Yeah, well, maybe when we get done here, I'll show you some of the things we've done from a design side that aren't released yet. We still have very strict rules on how we can use it for coding, though we are using not Claude Code, but a few other tools for coding, along with good secure practices, code reviews, security scans. But what you can do with design is blowing me away. So
that's cool.
Hope you guys are using it too.
Yeah, we are. Yeah.
Nice.
And I'm keen to hear more how you're doing it. Cause it feels like, everybody's kind of learning every day. Like, oh, I can do this really cool thing. And, so it's cool to, it'd be great to compare notes.
It's literally changed for us in the last 2 weeks.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah. That's so cool. Okay. Last one, fiction reading.
Fiction reading. Underrated. Yeah. Whenever I can find time, find a good book. I do read some history. I do read some other things, but good science fiction for me tends to be the way to just chill out. So
Nice. Yeah. I'm the same way. Like it's kind of how I, wind down for the night before bed. I'll read a little fiction. That way I'm not like thinking about work, the worst thing for me is reading a business book right before bed, because
Yeah.
then my wheels start turning and I'm like, I just want to go work on that.
Yeah.
So
I'm exactly the same way for pretty much the same reason. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Well, thanks for indulging me in the overrated, underrated game. That's good to get to know you a little more. Okay. So how did you get started in the security industry? Take me into that story.
I got started a while ago. I had come up on the IT side of the world, and I had been through a couple of startups, and the one that I was in at the moment, we were selling like IT tools that helped you analyze IT equipment to make IT more efficient and streamlined, and inventory all the equipment you had, tell you what's running optimally, things like that. And I just was a little tired of selling IT tools to IT people to make IT better versus solving business problems and real solutions. And this is right around the time of 9/11, and I was talking to a few friends about what are things we can do that kind of um, change the world for security, and found an interesting startup that was working with computer vision, and joined them and have been on the security side ever since. So
Okay. So it sounded like you kind of just stumbled into it after. Is that kind of how it worked?
yeah,
Or?
I really did. I mean, I wasn't looking specifically at security. Like, part of the things we were doing for IT was IT security and things like that.
Hmm.
But I really wanted something where we were looking at focused customer needs that were better aligned with business needs for them, instead of um, IT for IT's sake. And
Okay.
at the time, I had been in a series of IT management platforms that did some really cool and interesting things, but also they were just about cutting costs. They were about how do we run that department a little bit more cheaply. And what I thought was really interesting on the security side, at least the products I've been with, we've never been about cutting costs. We've been about trying to solve problems, and whether it's make a system run better for all the people in the organization. We do some visitor management where it's all about making sure visitors are well taken care of, and that it's not just about an efficient process flow, but it's about making sure people feel welcome, and that the system feels. That's one where if it's easy enough that it becomes invisible, then you've done your job well. If they think about a visitor system, they probably don't think about it well. And so, how do we really start to make process flows better for a much wider group of people throughout the organization?
I'm newer to the security industry, and my understanding is most businesses and maybe most people in the industry view it as a cost center, right? This is just the cost of doing business. I got to make sure my doors are locked and the right people come in, the right people go out. And it seems like there's a new wave of thinking that says, yes, it's that, but it can be more, right? There's an additional value that security can bring to the table when it comes to the experience.
Exactly. And I mean, I've seen that, right? I've seen a company going through merger and acquisition. They have a fixed amount they pay for security. No analysis that goes into it. That's your budget. Get this these high rises and these buildings we just bought integrated. You got your 2.5% of our integration budget is the security dollars for that. But what I've seen with several of the security leaders I've worked with, that they look at it in a much different way. It's about how do I make security friendly and inviting, make the secure process steps also the efficient ones, not because it saves me money in my security department, because it makes the business run better. And if I make security friendly and make the right steps friendly, then you'll want to follow them. In fact, you'll follow them because it's easier than doing it the wrong way. That's part of what I look at in your product is you're making a piece of this process quite a bit easier for people, which means they're going to follow the right process. And that's what I've seen. Like instead of they used to have a process where they watch people coming into the building looking for tailgating, and they would call out anyone who was doing it wrong. And it was really negative, sort of being stopped by a security guard and told, what not to do. And they flipped it completely under his leadership, which was they now stand there and look for people who come in groups and do it right. And they call them out really loudly and give them Starbucks gift cards. Okay. Coffee is on them. And so they celebrate the people who do it right and say, hey, great job. Thank you for doing this well. We appreciate when people follow the rules. And my side, it's not always that. It's always looking at how do we understand what they're trying to do, find them better ways to do it so that population doesn't have to think about security either, right? They know they're doing the process correctly because the process is the easy way. The secure route is the easy route for them. And getting things to that level.
I like that. Yeah, because then it's all about incentives, right? It's like if the secure thing to do is the easy thing, then we don't have to worry about creating a negative experience because you're just doing the easy thing. And that's a cool way to look at it. It makes me think of I don't know if it was a study I was reading or if the study was in a book, but universities, when they plan out their campus, they would build these paths between the different buildings.
Yeah.
Right. And what they found was the students would start to ignore the paths and kind of chart their own path through the grass or the dirt because it was more efficient. Right. If I have to go, I could follow this.
You only got so much time between classes.
Yeah. So much time. So they're like, I'm not going to follow this concrete path. I'm just going to go from point A to point B in a straight line. And so what they realized is before we build, these concrete paths, we're just going to see like what paths kind of emerge as the students walk and then build paths, in line with their path.
Yeah. You always see a new college campus has nice square paths and square corners. And the one that's been used for a while, they go the directions the students need to go. You got to lean into that. It's a great way to design. It's you stop, you observe, you learn what people are doing. So, you can make it pretty. I always say that the difference between UI and UX, one is looking pretty and the other one is the way people need things to work in order to work with them efficiently. And you can have pretty looking UI that just is hard to use. And then you can have UI that's not actually very well polished, but it's polished from a usability standpoint. People understand it. People know how to use it really well. It doesn't look modern, but it's been honed and works well. And the paths are a great example for finding that through observation.
Have you been in product, for a long time? You've seen, I'm sure, great products with great UI, great UX, and I'm sure you've seen the other side of the spectrum. What do you think is the key for product teams, right? If you're talking to a young company who has ambitions for, a product that's going to change the world or even just dominate a niche, like what advice do you give to those teams when they go out to design their product? What's the key to a great product?
Lots of iterations. Design it. Don't design it too hard. Don't spend too much time. my new design, we're 2 weeks in, we're getting feedback this week. We're then going to take that feedback, make some changes. Week after next, we'll be getting feedback again and making changes again. So you got to show it to people. And I learned through our UX team the right way to do that. Read about it, but it's show it to them with the least amount of context you can give them. Tell them who they are, what the task is, what their goal is, and then don't show it. Don't do anything else. You let them click through it. Ask them to speak aloud about why they're doing, what they're trying to accomplish, and just watch and listen and do the least intervention you can with them. And, take good notes and then react to that. And often what you'll see is what they say and what they're actually doing don't match. I've had people asking, like, how do I scan this barcode on the screen where it says scan barcode right on the screen? And they don't pick it up right away. So they click the most obvious button to them and move to the next screen and say, I guess I can't figure that out. And you're right there wanting to point at the button because it's right on the screen. And you can't. You've got to look at that and say, okay, they're missing the button. What do we do? One designer fixed that by that button would just twitch a little bit every few seconds. It would just sort of have a very slight animation. The little sheen would go across it. And you'd watch testers and everyone's eye would look at it the first time it moved, and then they would ignore it unless they were the one looking for the barcode. And as soon as they looked at it, they would, oh, there it is, and click it. And so it forced people's eyes. That wasn't the ultimate solution for it. He found something easier and better over time, but he came up with that like on the fly. And, none of us looking at that would have ever said, oh, there's no barcode button, or that barcode button doesn't work. It was a large button, it was prominent on the screen. It's just not where their brain went. And because it was a secondary action, it wasn't the most obvious thing. By the time they thought about it much, they'd already moved their mouse or touched the tablet with their finger and were past the screen before they ever got a chance to find it. So
that's a great example. And I think one of the things that stood out to me is you have to have a certain level of humility to realize just because I built this doesn't mean it's right. Like just because I built this doesn't mean that the customer is going to understand it. You have to be able to lay your assumptions about how this thing should look aside so that you can, to understand the customer and hear how they're using it, and then adapt to their response to what you've built. And you can't, and you have to be humble in order to accept that feedback and make changes.
Yeah. When we go through that, if we can, we have a video camera. So somebody not there with them is the better observer. If you're there, they're watching you. And you have somebody watching the whole session through the camera, and they're writing notes, and the yellows are neutral. Greens are, excitement or good comments, and reds are the things you got to fix. And getting it where it's just all yellow is a perfectly fine solution. Greens are incredibly rare. You get a green where somebody actually says, oh, wow, that was cool, about software, about a user experience. Double down on that. You're on to something. See if that keeps happening with people, you've got something really special, and very difficult, in an iPhone world where everything is pretty slick and has been looked at really well. But yeah, your main goal is to get to yellows and to get through that. I found it a lot of fun. I think it's that, and you talk about sort of the feedback and getting your ego out of the way. Once you get into that mode about learning and improving, man, you're dying for that negative feedback, that what can I fix thing.
Yes.
The design we're on now, I sent it out to 3 or 4 people, all of whom work for me. And most of them started with, oh, it looks great. Which, thanks, but not what we're looking for. And one of them skipped that part and just pointed out the 6 things he saw wrong with it, which is just his personality. And I was just so happy with that response, because I'm like, now there's 6 things I can go fix, The others gave me good tips and feedback eventually, but
It's exactly how I am. I always
yeah,
tell our customers, I'm like, I want the good, I want the bad, but I especially want the ugly.
yeah,
Like, give me like, don't sugarcoat it. I want to know why it's wrong. I want to know all of that, because
it's the most valuable. Yeah,
yeah. And it's like, we can't fix any of that if we don't hear about it. So, yeah, we're constantly trying to make it super easy for our customers to give us feedback. So, we can make a product for them that they love.
yeah.
Yeah. So that's the goal. Okay, cool. So, a little bit about product. Tell me about your role, more of your role in HID, because my understanding is you're in the identity access management business area, right? You guys call them business areas.
Yep.
Okay.
And then we're part of the business unit that is the workforce business unit.
Okay.
We have software solutions, primarily PIAM is the general category, physical identity access management, which includes for us a lot of visitor management. We actually have multiple visitor management products that we have, some legacy products, newer SaaS product in that space. And we're about pulling the pieces and processes together for the customer. And with that, that's actually where we met and first started talking, was around our newish HID integration service platform, meant to help tie systems like our software products and lots of partner products together, access control products, electronic lock products, lockers from AS Abloy, from HID, from third parties. And it started as a way to make our software easier and faster to build. And it's turned into kind of my favorite project of how do we make it easier for everybody to build new software? How do we make it easier for everybody to solve new problems in this market?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. When I first heard about integration services, I was super pumped, because we're looking at all these different access control systems that our customers want us to build integrations for. And our core competency is building remote photo software. It's not building integrations to these third-party systems that we're not experts in. Fortunately, we have our product is pretty narrow, so it's not rocket surgery, but it's still not something we really want to be experts in or maintain. So the idea of just being able to build to one platform, and then as a result, you get all these integrations to these other access control systems, is pretty awesome.
Yeah. Yeah. The whole goal is to free things up on both sides of that equation, right? It's very difficult for the access control vendor to have to deal with all of us too, on the application side. So we've seen this with access control vendors who are bringing out a new product, like a cloud product or just next generation of their popular platform, or they want to get rid of the 10-year-old API that they've been using for too long and move to something that has new capabilities. The issue now is they've got to get as many people as possible in the industry to migrate with them across to this new version, this new product, this new API layer. And it slows their business down, it slows everybody's business down whenever that happens. And none of the integrations are core business except for to a small set of companies that are out there. There are a few. And what I think is great is some of those companies that have been focused on integrations are now working with us to do that even faster. They're turning into more of a service arm or a specialist working with other product companies in the middle. And even several of those are starting to use the platform as well. So really excited to see people all looking at it as, this saves me time, this saves me money, this creates a way for me to work with a bunch of other people more quickly. And for the people who've jumped in, it's been great talking to them and seeing kind of that excitement.
That's really cool, because I wondered how that would play out, like whether companies that viewed or had specialization in building these integrations, kind of how they would react to his. And that's cool to hear that it can actually be a benefit to them. They can
Yeah.
build alongside what you're doing and specialize.
Not all of them are as excited, but
Yeah.
2 out of 3 of the
Yeah.
ones we've talked to so far, one, took about 2 or 3 months and went and talked about it internally and came back and signed up as a partner and started integrating and doing some work. The other one took just a bit longer to finally do work, but they actually, agreed to the partnership and saw that it would be useful very early. The only thing holding the back was the number of integrations that we had and the number of systems. And so now they're actually using it primarily to talk to systems, not to PACS, not to PACS systems, but to applications. They already have a ton of PACS integrations, but they're now becoming more accessible to lots of other applications that are out there. So they're still using it to expand their capabilities as well. So
yeah, that's great. I want to go back to PIAM. So that stands for Physical Identity and Access Management System.
Mm-hmm.
And I want to share with you my understanding of what a PIAM does.
Oh, great. Okay.
And then if you could help me fill in the gaps, because I've had people on our team ask me, okay, so what is it IAM or PIAM? And I'm trying to describe it. I'm like, I feel like I got 80% of the way there, but I'm missing some things.
Okay.
So my understanding is, we work primarily, our system kind of sits between HR. Ideally, we think people ought to submit their photo during the onboarding process. Mm-hmm. That's how I think it should be done. And so, we're building some integrations with the HR system. So that, through that HR system is a lot of times how people get created in remote photo. And then photos get downloaded from remote photo to either a PACS system or a card production system. Like in higher ed, they they use different software to produce the cards.
Yeah.
So that's our world. And then I hear PIAM and I'm like, okay, this sounds like it's like a layer that sits on top of your PACS system. And it's kind of the single pane of glass for understanding how an identity moves, the identity life cycle of an employee. Help me understand PIM a little better. Am I on the right track?
You're on the right track. And it's actually very similar to what you're talking about for the photo, but for the whole identity. So the idea is the identity starts someplace, probably in the HR department, just like you're talking about. And it needs to flow to lots of different places. And traditionally, there's been IT systems that do this for IT systems, kind of the problem that we talked about earlier of IT systems for IT systems. And they've often solved this problem within the organization for employees. But in the physical security side, we don't stop at employees. We have contractors and vendors and all sorts of other people that work with us that are given access to our space, sometimes with a card unsupervised, sometimes under supervised conditions that are well outside those IT only solutions that are out there. Though some of them are now starting to work and start to realize that there's this whole extra set of people out there that we're kind of forgotten. So we're seeing a few of those traditional vendors come into physical security now. And so we're about collecting up all of these identities that are beyond just the ones coming through HR, getting them all collected, distributed to the right places. And then now that we have them, access becomes a big piece of that. And so what are the right access patterns for onboarding? How do we manage that and make it simpler? If you just have a single PACS system, then we're adding layers on top for workflow and requests and delegation of who can approve things. And a big piece of this is making sure that you're creating the records around who's approving this. If I have this contractor that's coming in, who needs the contractor? Who's viewed the documents that had to be collected to make sure that they've been onboarded properly? Do we have a process? This is one of the things that you can make hard, you can make really easy. what we try to do is make sure that the easiest way to onboard that contractor is through the core process. Follow these steps. We'll give you all the rights you need to and all the tools you need to manage that contractor or set of contractors that you need to operate your manufacturing facility, operate your oil refinery, your hospital, whatever it is. That they're all collected, distributed to the right places with the right checks, with the right approvals. So you don't want somebody onboarding a contractor to give them access to a data center accidentally, unless that's where they're supposed to work. So capturing who are the approvals is a huge piece of this. And of course, at the back of that is then when anything gets suspended, being able to suspend access and remove access just as rapidly is probably one of the most critical pieces.
Yeah, I bet. Yeah, that makes sense. That's really helpful, because I hadn't even thought about how it's almost like, we're a photo management workflow, and you could almost think about PIAM as like an identity management workflow.
Yes, and what we try to do is give hooks to other processes that have to work and keep them working, even though in a lot of cases they don't know about each other. The HR process is running and they sort of stop at their edge. You've got the contractors coming in from someplace else and they sort of stop at their edge. And access control isn't aware of, it maybe depends on the access system. It might be integrated to HR or not. But we can then consolidate and combine all of that for people. Ultimately, it's trying to make it all smooth and consistent. And, one place you can go, like you said, one place to manage it, not just to see it, but also to be able to set rules, approvals, when it comes down to audit time, track it all so that you've got reports about what's happened.
Yeah. That's one of the reasons I think that remote photo and HID safe and visitor management or visitor manager work so well together, because we're finding that in these, especially in a rebadge situation, there's a big healthcare company that I'm thinking about, and we're like, all right, tell us who you need to capture a photo for, and give us the information that we need to create the people on our side, right? We need an email address and identifier. And it's, they can't give me the information. And I'm like, how? Like, what's the problem? You have to know who this person is.
It's probably spread across multiple systems. It can be spread across, especially healthcare. When I started working with healthcare, I didn't realize everyone in the hospital is a contractor. The number of employees working inside a hospital is awfully low. The administrative staff, nurses are part of a contract and or multiple contracts that they have to staff nursing. Doctors have their own set of relationships within the hospital of employees, rights to work there. But then there's all these vendors coming and going that bring supplies and sterilize equipment and all these various services that keep it running. They're even one step further removed than the actual healthcare workers and kind of core staff that keep a hospital running. And they all come from different places. They all come from different systems. And for a long time, 10 years ago, 15 years ago, I think they looked at that and said, yeah, it's working, so this doesn't matter. But the Joint Commission came down and said, actually, you really need to know who's inside a hospital. And they've been getting much more formal about that ever since. Vendor tracking went from a nice to have to a must have. And visitor management is going the same way pretty rapidly. We're seeing it become mandated in some areas. And they're incredibly difficult places from a security perspective because they're so open. One of the hospitals I was visiting, probably 5-6 months ago, the best coffee shop in the area is inside the hospital. Everybody comes in to go to the coffee shop. It's and it's normal. It's allowed. The coffee vendor expects it. He wants to make money from selling the best coffee in the area, but it creates a bit of a security challenge, I guess you could say, of how do we know who's here and what's the purpose, and is this fine? Is this what's normal and what we expect? So yeah, it's a lot to pull together. I can definitely feel the pain of can't get the right groups of people and who needs the photos and how do you even contact them all.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You're going to get a lot of lists is what I predict.
Yeah. And I'm really excited to innovate on that problem and figure out, and I think it's pairing remote photo with these IAM systems, and bringing that data together in a cohesive and easy way to understand. So I have some ideas. I'm excited about where we're headed there. But going back to the visitors with the hospitals, I might have told you this story before, but I will never forget. I probably wouldn't have thought twice about this maybe 4 or 5 years ago, before we were, before I was going to security conferences and talking with security people. But my wife had, I think it was our second boy, and I went home to grab something, and I come back and I walk through the lobby. No one asked me who I am. I get in an elevator. I go to the 4th floor, and I go to the mother baby unit, and I press the little intercom, and they say, "Who are you here to see?" And I say, Crystal, my wife, and they let me in. And I'm like, so that
great for convenience.
All I had, super convenient, great convenient experience. But man, if I guessed the name of anybody, and that mother baby unit hall, I would have been able to get in. So it's going back to how we started the conversation. How do we make it convenient and secure at the same time?
Yeah, that is the question. And I will say there are a lot of ideas out there and a lot of things people are talking about. Both I'm hearing coming from the hospitals, from the customers in general. Part of it is, and also getting back to your AI question, is try more of them faster. Bring more of those pieces together. You know what? If you'd been pre-registered, we gave you a link and let you pre-register, before you left the house. Maybe you could take a photograph of yourself as part of that. Then maybe when you showed up and were telling them who you were, they were already confirming that on their screen, and you were pre-cleared without having to do a whole lot of extra steps, and they knew exactly who they were letting in the door. I suspect they didn't know at the time, and a lot don't. And so helping them get to that area, that level of knowing for sure. I do think there's going to be some really good uses for facial recognition here. We're already seeing, one hospital is looking to integrate facial recognition within a weapons detection system. And so it's mandated. They've got to put in weapons detection. Well, they want one that lets them see who's coming in and not just do a weapons detection, but actually recognize people. And that works hand in hand with visitor systems and maybe with your system too. We haven't talked to you about this yet. We should talk after. Well, if they've got video facial recognition on weapons detection, we collect up the photos ahead of time. They come through and are recognized. They don't need to stop and check in because the weapons detection just checks them in. So as they walk in, they're just checked in. We know who's in the hospital. When they leave, we check them out. It's kind of the ultimate goal, right? The system becomes so simple that it's now invisible in the background. They're getting the records they need. They're getting the information that they need. But it's not slowing down the patient visitors. It's not slowing down the traffic of the people who want to come through. I still like the intercom there. I still think you want to feel and know about that security right at the door of the unit. You probably feel uncomfortable if it was too easy to get through that door. In fact, like you did thinking back about it. So you still want to get to what's the appropriate thing. And I'll be dead wrong about how this works. It's going to work better and smoother, but maybe it doesn't work like this until we test it. Like, does this sound
Right.
perfect? It does, which means we better go test it because we're probably wrong about some piece of this.
Absolutely. I think about all the things that we use every day where the complexity is obfuscated away by the systems that we're using. Think about this video call right now.
Yeah.
All the, the gigabytes of data that are being transferred, in the video feed. The fact, I could just get on here and hit record, but I don't have to think about all the complexity to make the microphone work. And, there's all like there's
you don't want to tell them that my mic wouldn't work and you couldn't hit record the first time.
Yeah.
That's too much inside.
We'll cut that out. We'll cut that out, Don.
Okay.
But there's a ton of complexity going on behind the scenes to make this possible.
Yeah.
But we don't really even think about it. We just get on here, we click a button, and we start talking.
Yeah.
And if we can create that experience in a visitor management standpoint, in a for an employee getting a badge, opening a door, like that's when we know that we've solved the problem.
That's exactly. And that's where we want to get security experiences all the way across. And that scenario of us, the weapons detection, your remote photo together, all of those plugged in and working together. 5 years ago, honestly, that project would have to be huge to cover the expenses of all those integrations. And then the customer would have to be pretty tech savvy to keep it all working together. But what we're going to is something that, just like you said, you don't have to have incredible knowledge about the microphone and the cameras and the streaming technology to make all this work now. This may actually be coming from 3 or 4 different services. In fact, I think my camera is connected through an Apple widget of some sort, but we didn't have to tell them about each other. They all speak the same protocols, and we can start to solve these bigger problems with that smoothness that you're talking about.
Mm-hmm. How do you, because I love the vision that you're casting for, the weapons detection and just like the ease of check-in. But you mentioned facial recognition. How do you get around the creepiness of facial recognition? Because I think when people hear that, they think surveillance and creepy. So how do you get over that hurdle?
You've got to be very careful about the circumstances that you use it in. If you have it in a place that's appropriate, you have it at that door to the mother baby unit that you were talking about, you'd be comforted at that point to know that they recognized you and that you're registered so you can go through quickly. And but you also want to tell them what you're going to use it for, right? So if you're going to collect that photo and use it for facial recognition, you should be telling them why. This will make it easier for you to go through the security line. This will make it more secure for you and the patients within our hospital. And then how long are you going to keep it? What's going to happen with it afterwards? And build a reputation that people will trust, like within the hospital brand, within your product, around doing that then very, very carefully. But it's you have to think about all those aspects. And again, sort of ask people, what do you think? And you'll have people that will react, I'll never do this. I might be one of them. Right up until the point where they're taking your picture as you go through the TSA line anyway. I don't know if you've seen the new program. There's now a rapid TSA pre-line. There's a rapid check line. And the day that I went through the airport at DCA here in Washington, D.C., and there were a bunch of people backed up in the TSA pre-line, but there's this new line that with nobody in it that you could go through. That's when I gave up on my facial recognition in the hands of the TSA, admitted that it's already there, and went and signed up for the new program.
I was going to mention that same experience. Yeah.
Did you sign up for it as well?
I haven't done the rapid check-in, but even just in the normal line, you hand them your ID and they take a picture of you, and there's a face match that happens. Yeah. And I've kind of just at this point just accepted, like, okay, this is normal. By the way, I unlock my phone with my face.
Yep.
So it's becoming more and more integrated into just our daily lives.
Yeah, and as people get more comfortable with it, you'll find a lot of people who've been unlocking the phone with their face for their whole time with phones. Never had like an old flip phone or anything else. It feels really natural to them, and they don't think about it as much. And then you're going to see people who are looking for an alternate solution. They're not going to be okay with that. And yeah, we should build that other path as well. But I think if it's at the right place, right time, you can put that together. And I mean, for me, it was seeing people go through the fast line while I was stuck in the slow line. And
Yeah.
to be completely honest, is because one of them was my coworker, and everything is a competition. And I hate to lose. And I'm like, well, I can't ever have this happen again. So I had to go sign up so he wouldn't beat me. We'd at least tie the next time.
Yeah.
So
That's funny. Yeah. And I think that's the story. It's a story of, I think the story needs to change.
yeah,
Right. It's not about specs. This is more secure. That's the wrong story to be telling. The story is, hey, it's way more convenient.
Yep.
And it's way easier. Of course it's secure. You know, that's kind of table stakes for, I think, all the things we're delivering, but we're going to make your trip to the airport delightful.
Yeah. And I think if you combine that, like any of those when the privacy aspect does show up, that you're conscious of and respecting their privacy, for the ones who do care, you give them the extra information. You don't make it, 20 pages of legalese. You make it something that's clear and crisp, and you'll get that extra opt-in out of that piece of the process. Again, it takes build it, test it, or mock it up and test it, and get real feedback from people, because we'll make design mistakes and approaches that don't work. Go and iterate and try it again.
Yeah, I like it. So shifting gears a little bit, going back into kind of the history books a little bit. I was looking through your LinkedIn and all the experience that you had. And one of the things that I found on there was that EA Sports acquired your company's systems, Interesting Systems.
A few mergers down the road. Yeah. Interesting Systems was my company that went through a couple of stages. And several of my friends and co-founders were still there when EA Sports did the acquisition. I was gone by then. And one of them moved on to run part of the ZeniMax, like that has the Elder Scrolls Online for a while. So he was one of the guys at the original Interesting Systems.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
Because I listened to, I'm not sure if you ever listened to the Acquired podcast.
I think I've heard it once or twice. Yeah.
Okay. They did an episode on EA Sports, which stands for Electronic Arts, which I didn't realize.
Yes.
And I think the founder is Trip Hawkins, if I remember his name right.
That sounds right. Yeah. Electronic Arts they haven't been called that in quite a long time. So
yeah. Well, it was super interesting because he viewed developers as these artists, right? He had worked at Apple and gotten to know these developers, and he realized, like, okay, these are more like, the best ones are more like artists than they are engineers. Yeah. And I thought that was really cool. Like, and so he attracted and he gave his developers a ton of creative freedom. And so that's why he named it Electronic Arts. So anyways, I just thought that was a cool tidbit that I wanted to pull out of your experience. So
yeah,
very, very
well,
cool.
We're still hiring former game developers around here as developers. And one of our teams, about half of them work on the weekends on their own computer game, and
That's awesome.
are running an online computer game that's been up and operational now for a few decades, I think. and they keep extending it and giving it more life, as well as running and operating it. And I don't think we have the whole team, because it's a pretty wide team of volunteers, but we got all the core guys in as our developers, and they are some of the quickest and mightiest ones out there. So you find yourself a good game developer, you've got somebody good. So
yeah, and one that has a side project too. Usually the guys who have side projects
always have a side project, which
yep.
As long as they let you see it and play the game, that's great. That's totally fine with me.
Yeah, that's right. So you've led a lot of different teams throughout your career, managed a lot of different people, been at different companies. In your mind, what makes some of the best leaders?
For me, it's listening and decision making are kind of the things that come together. One of the things I try to do, and with my peers in our leadership group, we try to communicate when is the decision due, because I hate two things. I hate a rushed decision where we had plenty of time to think about it, and that we made too hasty a decision, because we could have made that in a couple of days, or even this afternoon instead of this morning, and thought about it a little bit longer, or talked to one more person about the issue. But worse than that, I hate decisions that don't get made. If we don't ever make a decision, then we're stuck. And so the technique we try to use is communicate the time. When are we going to decide? What is our deadline? And when you get there, if nothing's changed, you have to make a call. And even if you don't have the right information, make the call and move with it. And I think for me, it's some of those pieces, communicating, some of that feedback loop is being unafraid to communicate good and bad news and do them both together. And then the hardest one for me, receive the good and the bad news. I have problems with both of them, and that's the part of maybe why the camera is a great idea when you're doing the product testing. It's you get too gleeful or embarrassed with the good news, and too annoyed with yourself when you've got bad news. Like, why didn't we think of that? Why are they getting stuck there? I don't understand yet. So to me, it's communication, decision making. That's those are the big pieces. And I think too, you've got to be able to listen to everybody, hear what's going on, but then make the decision. And even when that decision's not the one everybody wants to hear, push that. You've met my boss, Phil, and he is excellent at making a hard decision and then pushing everyone to pull together to meet what we need to do anyway. And he's done that to us on some deadlines and some challenges, not getting the budget that we asked for, not getting the amount of time that we thought we needed, and then pushing us to then get together and deal with the difficult situation and to work out a different plan, and politely and friendly pressure us into doing better. And it's been great. We've come through those and figured out how to do it faster, figured out how to make it a little bit leaner and lighter to get it out the door, and then learn sooner and go back and add some of the bells and whistles that we were talking about after the fact. Or whatever else it is we have to do to figure out how to adapt. So,
yeah, that's really good. And what about with teams? Because you've been on different teams as well. Like,
yeah,
give me an example of like one of your favorite teams you've ever been on, and what made it so fun or enjoyable or exciting.
The fun comes from working together and succeeding and going quickly. the one I'm on now is one of the best ones I've worked on, the management group, with my peers. And um, there's a characteristic. I actually heard it first talked about from Steve Case. You remember America Online, and back
Mm-hmm.
when they were the fastest growing thing out there, what made them so fast? And his answer, and I've shown that this works really well, is we don't always have the right answer. We come to an answer, we come to a decision, and then everyone supports it. And it's not about getting the best answer. It's not about having the best idea. The best results come from the best execution on the answer. And that if 2/3 of the people are sort of hanging out to wait to see how it's going to go, and a third is trying to get something done, it's too much drag on the third trying to go. And even if it's 2/3, only 1/3 drag. And so one of the things we do is we also decide who's going to make a decision on the team. It's not just about when we're going to make it and make it at that point, or make it as soon as you're ready if you really have enough information prior. It's that we then all come together and execute. And if it's not my decision to make, but it's one of my peers, and they don't agree with the direction I want to take it, that doesn't matter. You put that aside and you go execute on this as quickly and as well as we can. And if then it turns out it wasn't right, then you can pivot and you can come back. But you execute it together as a team, and you make it work with whatever that decision is. And I think that's what made them such a rapid growth company for so long. Technology eventually passed them by, but um, for us and my current team, we do this really well. We talk about what has to be decided, who's going to be the decision maker, and then whatever happens, we support.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I heard Jeff Bezos in an interview. It was like one of the only interviews he's done in the last couple of years, but he talked about one-way doors and two-way doors when it comes to decisions. And there are decisions that you make in business and in life where if I make this decision, it's a one-way door. I'm not coming back through.
Yeah.
Right. Like we're not going to be able to pivot, after we make this decision. It is setting the course for, X, Y, or Z. And then you have two-way door decisions where it's like you can go in, make the decision, realize you were wrong, and go back, out the other door and adjust course. And I think that's been a really helpful framework for us, because if it's a two-way door decision, then you're just trying to shrink the time between the decision and the feedback so that you can pivot. And, obviously on the one-way door decisions, you gotta, that's where you're spending a lot of time thinking through all the different angles. But if it's not that, you really should just be making decisions quickly and going for it so that you can get feedback.
Try it that way as hard as you can. See if it works, but be open to learn something. And it's not always even have to come all the way back. Like sometimes the pivot is we're almost there, but we need to make, just move 2 steps to the left and recover that way. No, I hadn't heard him say that, but I definitely agree with it. And I think fortunately for me, I don't see, there's a few of those one-way door decisions, but they're pretty rare. And it's almost always, if you step forward with a choice, there's some that are, very difficult to unmake afterwards, but most of them, you can try, learn, pivot. I've seen cultures where the view of a decision or of a project is it's succeed or fail. And if you fail, then that follows you forever. You're the guy who didn't succeed. And that I think often comes from cultures where you celebrate successes, and we do, but we celebrate failures just as hard. And sometimes actually, I'll let 5 small successes go by. Like the people are succeeding all the time. Somebody who tries something that doesn't work and then comes back with another plan, that's the one I hold up. That's the one I show to the team and I talk about as look at this. We learned something. And you can see people shift out of the success fail mindset into succeed, learn, pivot, or fail. Fail isn't a fail. It's a learn and pivot situation. And once they get into that, they really open up to try things, to move faster, to try more things, and to change their mind on things too. They won't hang on to that idea that's clearly not working out just out of fear of being painted. It's, oh, my idea didn't work. They've moved on 3 times by the time, it's not that it's not working out. It's that they've changed it 5 times. They've modified things as they've gone. Yeah, the original one, had they stuck to it, would have failed a long time ago. But they've plotted this path through.
I love that. I like that a lot. And I think what you're doing from a leadership standpoint is you're making it safe for people to try things, right? If you celebrate, celebrate the successes, but celebrate the failures as well, because what you're celebrating is the courage to step out and try something new and then pivot. And so you're creating this culture of like, no, we want you to make decisions. We want you to try things, because that's how we learn.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's really cool. I think I'm going to try and apply that, to our business, is because I think we do a pretty good job of celebrating, successes, but even celebrating the failures. I think that's really, really good. Thanks for sharing that.
Yeah. And
okay.
They have to find their recovery at the end of that too. Like you have to get them to that point where they have the next path. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. Yep.
Don't get them right at the bottom. Get them on the bounce. Go ahead.
Yeah. Yep. Few more questions for you. One is, what are you, as you look to the future and your role and, identity and access management, like what are you most excited about as you look to the future?
I'm excited about the speed that we can now iterate on products as we're moving forward. I'm excited about the platform that we've built, and honestly, meeting people like you and having all these partnerships that we were saturated at 4 or 5 projects, in a year previously, and we're now working actively with 15 companies that are doing integrations and work with us, and have room for a few more, that we can do. And those projects are going in record time as we go forward as well. And it's really, really, kind of cool to see all these people coming together. So the iteration speed that we're picking up, both on the product side and on the integration side, are both just very exciting. Yeah,
that's really exciting. We're seeing some more speed on our side as well, just with AI tooling. We've also made our release process. We've kind of overhauled that and rebuilt it to where we're releasing, instead of doing a massive release, we're doing smaller features, smaller improvements more quickly, which allow us to we're doing deployments, multiple deployments every week.
That's great.
But it decreases the surface area of the risk, because it's a smaller improvement. So you can just roll it back if you need to. So
like for the people who notice and it's not working, everybody else hasn't yet, you could roll that back and it's
roll back.
Minor. Yeah.
Yep.
But it also lets you learn about it faster, right? You're doing that in a lower risk, quicker learning. That's great.
Yeah. Yep. Exactly. Okay. I always like to ask this question. But what, you look back over your long career, looking at your 18-year-old self, what advice would you give 18-year-old Don?
It wouldn't matter. He wouldn't have listened to it anyway. I would try to tell him, you are going to live past 30, so plan accordingly, but it wouldn't matter. He wouldn't believe me.
Okay. Yep. Sounds like you were pretty rambunctious as a
youngin'. Yeah.
Yeah.
Thought I knew everything for sure. Yeah.
Yep. I get that. Do you have a book or a podcast or a movie recommendation?
I'm going to be recommended this one, not this one, but your podcast. Lenny's podcast for all the product people out there, and I think good for anyone in like anyone who's thinking about building a product today. Lenny's podcast is great. Book recommendation, gonna go with science fiction for you. Murderbot Diaries. I don't know if you've seen the show that's out, but it's great. The books are even better, and there's more of them. So
okay,
yeah.
Cool. I haven't heard that before. Yeah, I have listened to Lenny quite a bit.
Okay,
I like Lenny a lot. He's, in fact, though, I just watched the one about he was interviewing somebody about his Claude code framework. He had no coding experience previously.
I listened to that last week getting on the train. Yeah, the young guy that was at no coding experience was a great podcast. I picked up some tips. I'm like, I have coding experience, but you're telling me stuff I don't know how to do. So keep talking. Yeah.
Yeah. It was really cool. Yeah. I shared it with our team. And what was his name? His name was Zevi.
Zevi,
I think
right.
he worked at Meta. So
he's at Meta, and he's
exciting.
building his own side project with vibe coding. So everybody's got to get their vibe coding side project. I just heard that my boss's 11-year-old just started a vibe coding project this last weekend. So he's going to build the next Fortnite. So wait a couple of weeks. He's 11, so it'll probably take him a few weeks to do it. Plus, he's on the free version of the bot, so he runs out of tokens pretty fast. Okay.
Well, let us know when it releases. We'll be excited to try it.
Me too.
All right, Don. Thank you so much for joining me today. I really appreciate your time.
Yeah, thank you too. Thanks for having me.